Welcome. This is Lunar Living, a weekly conversation of lived astrology and cyclical wisdom that expands our connection with ourselves, each other, and all of life. Wherever you are, let's take a deep breath together and arrive just as we are. We're not here to predict life, we're learning how to grow in rhythm with it.
And each week we'll explore the current astrology, the wisdom of the moon, and the energetic invitations unfolding around us, translating the language of the cosmos into practical guidance that you can actually live. And together we will help you understand not only what is happening in the sky, but why it matters, how it might be showing up in your relationships, your emotions, your body, and your everyday life.
We'll share our own experience and learn how to embody the wisdom moving through us now, because transformation doesn't happen just through information. It requires our engagement. I'm Colleen Akasa, founder of 𝒐𝒏𝒕 and Lunar Living. For decades, I've explored what it means to live in rhythm with my own body, with the moon, with nature, and with others. I weave cyclical wisdom and embodied practices with relational awareness so we can remember our wholeness and expand our capacity for meaningful connection.
And I'm Eleni Prinsloo, astrologer healer and intuitive coach. And I love translating the wisdom of astrology into grounded, practical insights that help people navigate life with greater clarity, trust, and self-awareness. And together we will explore the gifts, the challenges, and the invitations held with each week's cosmic landscape, making the heavens feel personal, accessible, and deeply supportive. We're so grateful that you're here.
Welcome to Lunar Living. Welcome, everyone. Lunar Living Embodied Astrology for the week of August 24th through August 30th. So we're starting out the week with the moon the sun is in Virgo and the moon's in Capricorn, heading into Aquarius pretty quickly. So we are in the waxing moon phase in the middle of the eclipse portal, heading into the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces on Friday. Early Friday morning in Eastern time zone. So this may be Thursday for a lot of people as well. Hi, Eleni. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the awesome conversations we get to have every week. So we're going to walk people through what this week has in store. It seems a little simpler, than the past weeks have been, but we've still got a lot of, as Eleni has put it, energy to unpack. We did a separate video on the full moon already, so that video will also be linked here to really expand on that day, so we can keep this one a little shorter and sweeter and kind of go day by day and help us unpack and embody each of the energies that are coming through. So starting on Monday, we're going to start with the Capricorn moon and the sun in Virgo, like we talked about. What other aspect do we have going on Monday, Tuesday?
Okay, so Monday and Tuesday, hello everyone. Hello everyone. Got to say hi. Hello everyone. All right, so Monday and Tuesday, I'm taking it as one. It's a very interesting dynamic because what we do have is we have got Saturn and the moon in Capricorn creating a Chi-square with Mars in Cancer as well as Venus in Libra. So we'll talk about that. But before we get into that, what I really want to do is I want to explain to people, what does it mean when the sun moves into Virgo? So, we know that the sun moves through the different zodiac signs every about a month and a half. It spends about a month and a half in every sign. And so the sun is our outward expression, it's our personality, it's the way that we shine, it's the way that we kind of, express ourselves in our everyday lives, in our our physical expression, expressing our inner world. So it's like the avatar that we carry around, right? And whenever the sun moves into the different zodiac signs, that expression of us takes on a different flavor, a different archetype, a different way that we relate to things. So even if you are born under a, I don't know, Capricorn sun or a, Aries sun or a Leo sun, like even if your personal sun is different than, the sun being in Virgo, your unique expression takes on that flavor. It becomes influenced by the Virgo energy. So let's just talk about Virgo quickly. Before I get into that, Kalina, do you want to add something there?
No, not at the moment.
All right, perfect. So let's talk a little bit about Virgo. What does that actually mean for us? How does the Virgo energy, sort of show up for us? Now, we've had a lot of Virgo energy happening over the last year and a half, right? We know that it's been the eclipse that we had in February, and well, I think in March we had this lunar eclipse again in March 2026. The moon was in Virgo, the sun, I think, was in Pisces, right? And so the nodes of fate have been in Virgo. So there's been a lot of Virgo kind of Pisces energy themes for the last year and a half that we've been sort of going through this Virgo Pisces axis, and ultimately now with the sun also being in Virgo, and the final eclipse of this year again happens to be in Pisces and Virgo, right? Except that the moon is in Pisces this time, not in Virgo as what it was in March. So Virgo energy really is just about habits and schedules and, kind of organizing everyday life, our day-to-day routines, focusing on our long-term health, our productivity, our like emotional and physical well-being. Virgo energy is discerning, meticulous, detail-focused, detail-oriented. And so for the next month and a half, our inner world, our unique expressions can start to become influenced by this Virgo energy. And it can express both ways, right? It can express as in the high road of Virgo, being of service, like really loving your body. It can also express as the low road, which can show up as, like overgiving, self-criticism, like over-perfectionistic. So Virgo also happens to rule our body and all of its systems, right? The gut, these kinds of things. So throughout this eclipse in this week, we can also start to kind of notice what are the thoughts that we're having, what are the emotions that we're having, what are the lifestyle choices that we're making, that may be impacting our emotional health or our mental health or our physical health. So it's time for us to kind of align our actions, perhaps with, our real body's needs and, kind of wisdom and those sorts of things. And this is a theme that's not just this week, but again, like it's Virgo energy, it's a whole month and a half, right? So let's look at this. Virgo energy can also express itself as being beautiful and healing and amazing, and it can also be very rescuing, like I want to fix everything and I want to fix everyone and I want to take control of everything and I want to be hyper independent. I don't know how to ask for help, not because they don't want to necessarily, but because of the fact that people have let them down in the past, and or they've asked for help and it wasn't done effectively or correctly. Then a Virgo kind of goes, okay, well then, if I can't rely on you to do the thing that I need you to do and do it properly, then I'd rather just do it myself. Virgos are generally quite afraid to make mistakes because, again, mistakes can feel dangerous, or it can be laced with rejection or shame or criticism, abandonment. The Virgos can also be very critical around their body, right, or the way that they look. So they can compare themselves to others, or they can obsess over their flaws. They can be very controlling around food. And they can become fanatical about their health, whether it's diet or physical exercise. They are always in a sort of search of perfection. So anything less than that can become a problem, right? So a Virgo also tends to live more from their head than their heart. They analyze things. They analyze emotions instead of feeling them. They solve a problem instead of just being present and listening, right? This is why Pisces is the opposite, because Pisces is like the more nurturing, the more caring, the more compassionate. Whereas, Virgos intellectualize rather than experience the feeling, and where Pisces is very much in the feeling and they lack the logic. And then again, Virgo can also be connected to prosperity, receiving, abundance, productivity. The more productive I am, the more I can receive. They love going to the gym. They love taking good care of their body. They're always, like constantly looking as a form of self-improvement, self-acceptance. And the gift, however, is that when a Virgo actually learns to embody the high road of a Virgo, they get to actually release control and they lean more into trust. They understand that, they move away from like doing or potentially just like productivity, 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 like to, no, I can just be, I can chill, like it's okay. The world's not going to fall apart. It's not a Chicken Little situation. The sky isn't falling if I'm not running or exercising or like doing all the things that I think I should be doing. I can release the perfectionism. I can release this criticism. I can release the self-deprecating behavior or words or beliefs, the victim mentality, the, oh, I'm not good enough. Like, I like to just kind of be either a savior or a martyr. So this is an expression of how the energy of Virgo may potentially influence us over the next month and a half. The positive expression of this, though, is that we may feel more inspired to take action on things that we haven't been able to take action on. We may start to focus on the details, pay attention to the little things, right? Like maybe for the last month, you've been looking at your closet and you've been thinking to yourself, oh, I should clean my closet. But you just haven't had the energy. You haven't had the inspiration, the energy to kind of get yourself to actually do the thing that you want to do. And now Virgo comes in and goes, no, it's okay. We have the time, we have the capacity, we have the energy, we have the vitality to actually do that thing. So we can, clean out that closet now. We can look at the budgets. We can look at the everyday routines and everyday life. We can start that new diet. We can move into wellness. We can actually focus on creating better space within us to have a healthier physical, living, as well as managing our emotions. So, Virgo is also in connection to our physical, emotional, and mental health. So it's, Virgos are very good at, for example, compartmentalizing their emotions and their thoughts and their thinking so that, they don't necessarily like Pisces just get lost in the emotion and, like it's just like watery depths and like I'm just feeling everything. So they're actually very good at like creating a little bit of that compartmentalization where it's not, I understand it, I know it, I feel it, and I'm going to give space for myself to actually go back to this emotion and, move it through me. But I'm not going to get lost in it. I'm not going to drown in it. I'm not going to, like swim in it for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. So there's a sense of they have more equanimity. They kind of know how to create steady, calm balance within the mind, within the thoughts, within the body. So all of these different things can be really beautiful and beneficial for us to kind of work with as a whole. And so I just wanted to bring that in so that people can understand, what may be influencing your actions this month, your choices this month, and especially considering that we're in the last week of this eclipse. Are you able to sit and see all of the finer details of everything that's transpired? Can you take the details? Can you look at it? Can you actually kind of just give yourself permission to notice what is there, what needs to be purified, what needs to be cleaned, what needs to be reorganized, what needs to be compartmentalized, right? Like, what do I need to do to take all of this stuff and actually use my emotional body, my mental body, my physical body to be more neutral and not, like just have it bombard me and throw me all over the place. So I wanted to just kind of share that before we get into the week.
Yeah, that's perfect because it feels like this whole week is really concerning this Virgo Pisces um, extremes. They are very kind of extremes of each other. Even though we start the week with the moon in Capricorn and then we move through Aquarius before the full moon, um, Thursday night, Friday. Um, the full moon's in Pisces, so that anchors us back in. So the gift of Virgo and Pisces together is that we don't lose the emotion, but we can use our Virgo organizational skills to create space and containment for all that we actually need. And we can take stock of what we actually need emotionally, physically, professionally, in our space around us. And we can get really clear on that with the Virgo energy at hand right now, what we actually need as opposed to what we were dreaming about or what we just wish we could do and, not have to do all the other things. So Virgo can call us to task on what do we actually need to do to create containment for our own emotions and the space to process the emotions instead of just muck around in them continuously.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a beautiful gift of the week. And though the beginning of the week, we're getting into feels kind of hard with Capricorn and then Aquarius. And the other things that we're going to speak about coming in, it's preparing us for the illumination and eclipse on Friday.
Yeah.
It's going to drop in this, next level of what do I actually really need to orchestrate in my life to feel really self-contained. And this is coming directly really from personal experience as well as like understanding the astrology. To some level, we're all going through this. What do I actually need for self-containment to create the life that I've been hoping and wishing and just kind of working for and falling off and never completing the cycle? This time is calling us to task on how do I fully complete that cycle of vitality, of abundance, and not keep spinning in the same small circles.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we enter the week Monday with the waxing moon in Capricorn. And we've got the T square. So, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have this T square between Saturn, in Aries, the moon is in Capricorn, and Mars is in Cancer. So, it's kind of like becoming aware of what is functional, what is dysfunctional, right? What needs attention, what needs to be removed.
Yay. Sorry for my sarcasm.
Yeah,
More of that, but it's
yeah,
important because it's important to kind of scrape the bottom of the bowl, and not just like leave lingering debris for the next thing, for the next pot that we're cooking, for lack of, better metaphors.
yeah. So it's not easy energy because, Saturn in Aries is a very authority driven, independence, responsible, develop maturity kind of energy. And Saturn within itself is like this paternal, kind of tough love archetype, right? And then Saturn has to have structure and boundaries, otherwise, there will be consequences. And, it has to have like there has to be self-direction there, but it also has to be mature self-direction. And then the moon in Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, so she also takes on a tougher exterior, right? So it's like kind of saying, okay, you need to be more responsible, you need to be more mature, you need to be in better self-control. It's like this mother kind of energy that's learned to survive by being responsible and emotionally contained and capable. There's no fluff there. It's not like a very, kind, soft, nurturing, fluffy mom. It's sort of like, a mother that's kind of assertive and, very sort of, it's a tough love kind of energy, right? There's no fluff there. And so when we have both the internal aspects of us, which is like this mature masculine aspect, right? Saturn is the mature masculine, Mars is the immature masculine or the younger masculine. Venus is the younger feminine, or the lover, or whatever you want to call it. And then, we've also got the moon, which is again the mature aspect, but it's sort of like there's a bit of like toughness there coming in from the moon being the inner world, the subconscious mind, and now the sun being in Virgo, which may be a little bit critical and a little bit more, sort of there's a bit of like a ruler over the hand kind of energy Monday and Tuesday. So Mars being, assertion and action and instinct and all of these things, in Cancer, it's emotional and it's attached, right? It needs emotion, like it wants its emotional needs to be met, but
And
it's not
possibly a
going to
little
get it.
victimized at times.
Yeah, but it's not, and that's the thing, and it's not going to get it from Saturn and Aries and the Moon in Capricorn. Like it's the wrong archetype, right? Like you can think of like having a very sensitive, very artistic, very creative um, child, right? Male child that may be very connected to their emotions, and then having a mom that's like kind of, and or a father that's no, you've got to be independent, you've got to be this, you've got to do this, so there's no love, not necessarily love, it's just that the expression of love is different. It's not, nurturing, deeply loving, caring, compassionate, like I'm going to hug you, I'm going to cuddle you. It's kind of tough love, so you've got like a Mars and Cancer mama's boy, kind of energy, and then you've got like the moon saying toughen up, grow up, man up. And Saturn at the same time is kind of pushing that, like you need to be more independent, stop hanging on to your mother's fucking hem, like can you grow up now, can you stand up for yourself, can you fight for yourself, can you grow up. So it's like it's tough love, like it's not an easy day. And these internal expressions is essentially going to manifest itself in us in a way, so our own inner voices can start to take on this flavor. We may become very hard with ourselves, especially the parts of us that need emotional connection and the parts of us that want to take action from a place of deep emotionality, right? Like we want our actions to align with our emotional fulfillment. I don't want to have to do the deep cleaning of the house. Like I want to go and do something that makes me feel emotionally fulfilled and happy. But these other parts of us are saying, no, 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 not today. Grow up, man up, take responsibility, take accountability. Like, so it's a bit of a tough love, kind of energy there. And then Tuesday as well, we have the same thing with Venus, right? So that's like this T squares between the father, the mother, the mature masculine, mature feminine, the son and the daughter, or the warrior and the lover, or like the younger masculine, the younger feminine. We all have these aspects in us, right? So um, with this sort of same kind of dynamic, it's really asking us to become a lot more mature around how we move through life, how we respond to things. Um, you know, can we actually start to kind of notice within us, where have we perhaps taken on family conditioning from our parents, because it's happening in this like very, like sort of weird like family dynamic almost, where it's like the emotional protection, the defensiveness, the dependency, the accommodating everybody else, the like needing to manage relationships, needing to create peace, or the environment to have be a peaceful environment in order to feel safe, right? So that it becomes a role, a job, a duty. Um, and so it's really kind of asking us to notice within us where we have taken on conditioning and stories and aspects from our family, and from, again, keeping to the theme of what we spoke about in all the August and all the previous stuff up to this point. It's like, what is not you? What is not your future version, right? Like, what are the things that you still need? What are the things that you're still carrying around inside of you that is not part of this new version of self, right? This new identity that you're busy birthing, right? Or that you want to birth. Um, so it's not an easy start to the week. It's not, like all like light and fluffy. And we can actually express this in a very hard way. We can be very harsh with ourselves and also with other people, right? We can project this onto other people. We can kind of bring in that, oh, that judgment almost of, oh, you're so immature, and you don't know what you're doing, and like we can project that onto the people around us, especially if we ourselves are in that Capricorn moon in Capricorn, kind of Saturn and Aries energy. If like we are like that embodied mother father archetype, then we judge these younger aspects, right? Like, so, and that can be projected onto the people around us. So like our family, our friends, our colleagues, whatever it is, like, stop playing around, stop being so immature, stop being so sensitive, like stop being so like, stop being a victim, right? There's a sense of like brutality that can come with that. There's a sense of like, okay, you need to stop being such a baby, like grow up, grow the fuck up. And that can be internalized as well, where we're not giving space to these, maybe younger versions of self that need to be loved in a different way. We're not giving that to ourselves because we're not in that space to see, like, oh, I'm being really hard with myself right now. I actually just need to, give my inner masculine that, that love and that compassion and that safety that it needs. The same with my feminine. But if we're in that energy, we might not necessarily see it. And so it's noticing. It's noticing how, this whole weekend dynamic kind of carries into Monday and Tuesday, and then noticing the places inside yourself where you're constantly avoiding, accountability, responsibility, where you're expecting other people to save you, fix you, heal you. And then also the opposite side of this, right? Where are you perhaps needing to be a little bit more kind and a little bit more cuddling and a little bit more compassionate? Where do you need to soften a little bit? Not just with yourself, but with everybody else. So just to kind of give people an idea of how that energy is expressing.
Yeah, we can use the Capricorn energy to move from criticism to discernment. When I'm feeling like, oh, this person needs to do this or that, actually, where do I need to be in relation to who and how they're choosing to be right now? Everybody else can be exactly how they are. If it's some people we may need to address, but it's really about understanding who do I need, who do I need to be in relation to that's my boundary. Not this person should make this choice. It's how do I stand in relation to that? Capricorn rules the backbones, knees, joints. So, noticing your own backbone in relation to things, moving from criticism into discernment, using the Virgo Capricorn energy to, again, create containment for what it is you actually need to, Capricorn, make those leaps of progress up the mountain.
Yeah.
And then with the moon changing into Aquarius, which rules the lower leg, the calf, the ankle, the shin, Achilles. So, switching directions, using that wisdom that you got from Monday, which may feel really crunchy towards ourselves or others. And, again, where can we soften, but also take the wisdom and then set up unconventional new types of containment for all that we want to do. Like if my daughter's like, oh, I want to be this type of artist when I grow up, and it feels like super fantastic and, whatever to me. But I'm like, what's that one step? Okay, so you want to do that. So the next step maybe try this piece of artwork out, or whatever, what's that one next step? And with the energy moving into Aquarius, it's going to include everybody. It's not going to isolate you, right? It's going to be community focused, and there's going to be maybe some sort of pivot available, and new way, an unconventional way of being that opens up through that crunchiness, so we can stay with it instead of projecting or beating ourselves up, and kind of set ourselves up to get that gift of, oh, this new idea that we had not even thought of before. That's the gift of that transition of really digging into what the needs are, what your gifts actually are. So what you're climbing the mountain with.
Yeah.
Cool. Are we complete for Tuesday?
Yeah, almost. I just wanted to kind of bring in, because it's also happening with Mars and Cancer and Venus and Virgo, Venus and Virgo, Venus and Libra, it's important to also remember on Monday and Tuesday that, because again, it's Cancer is nurturing, it's, just being taken care of in a way that just feels so good and wholesome, right? Like it's Cancer in its healthiest expression is like the great grandmother archetype that just like makes you your favorite cookies and like wraps you in a warm blanket and like makes you your favorite meal, and like you sit on, like when you're a kid and you go and visit your grandmother, and then like like obviously within healthy family dynamics and systems, right? Like there's so much love there, right? And there's the smell of like cookies, and like it's that kind of like perfect, like like almost fantastical, like grandmother that's just so beautiful and wholesome and loving and kind and nurturing. And so Venus in Libra is, sort of also that like fairness and harmony and equality, and like just really just having, just being in the play and in the fun and in the pleasure of life, right? And so creating a sense of harmony does require reciprocity as well. So, like one person can't constantly be responsible to keep everyone else emotionally comfortable and safe. And so these two T squares are also challenging this conditioning, this fanatical Virgo aspect in us that's over perfectionistic, over controlling, right? Tries to dominate everything and like make sure that everything is in the right place. And, like, and Capricorn as well, they can be very systemic, and this is the way that I want it. This is the routine that I want. This is the structure that I want. I don't want to break out of the box. Don't tell me what to do. They're very focused on like just keeping this, like keeping things steady and like keeping the course, like because it's comfortable for them. And then with Saturn and Aries, it's like, no, you you need to grow up. Like you need to be more independent. You need to be a leader. You need to stop, fluffing around with other people. And so it's challenging. It's not necessarily light and fluffy, but I just kind of wanted to bring that in because again, when Mercury moves into Virgo on Wednesday, we become more discerning. Our mind shifts out of Leo into Virgo. So again, it's Virgo, Mercury rules Virgo. So it's at home in Virgo, it's comfortable in Virgo, it understands Virgo. It's why we analyze things and why we sort of like, the mind, we always call it the monkey mind. It's like always analytical and analyzing information and looking for answers and reasons. So that's like a Mercury Virgo energy, right? So we become interested in what's happening, what's useful, what needs to change, where do I need to organize things, what needs reorganization, what needs restructuring, what is fact, what is assumption, what is real, what is false, what is truth, what is illusion, what belongs to me, what belongs to someone else, is it my story, is it someone else's story? So that analysis that we have, that we can kind of start to bring in as from Wednesday. And remember again that Mercury will also be in Virgo for about a month, right? So we're given an opportunity to kind of like just analyze everything that we've gone through up until this point, right? We're able to kind of sit with it, chew on it, see it, and then notice, okay, where am I being overly criticizing? Or where am I being overly perfectionistic? Or where am I being overly controlling? Where does that need to, what inside of me is asking for change? What needs attention? Because with this, Moon, Saturn, Mars, Venus, like T square configuration, Mercury enters Virgo. It gives us that ability to actually identify the patterns beneath all of these emotional responses and reactions, like, where we may be super hard on ourselves or on other people, or where we might be too soft and too like, kind of like, oh no, I don't want to do anything. Somebody else has to do it for me. Like, woe is me. Life is hard. Fix my problems. That we avoid taking accountability for ourselves. We avoid taking responsibility. We're not mature in our choices. So it can go either way, right? So with Mercury then moving into Virgo, we're able to see it with a lot more detail. We're able to look at things and dissect things and analyze things and kind of like, we're able to get into the gritty details of everything and pull from it a depth of understanding that we don't have when our Mercury is in Leo, right? Because it's bigger and it's louder and we want to be seen more and we want to talk more, and like it's a different expression. Whereas, Mercury in Virgo is a lot more analytical, and they're extremely good at analyzing and focusing on the detail. And but that's also the problem, is like, don't get lost in too much of the detail. Sometimes it's good to see the bigger picture. So when you have, like we spoke about the eclipse, being able to kind of take the macrocosm, bring it into the microcosm, seeing the bigger picture of everything that's just sort of transpired and shifted and rearranged itself. Now we can kind of use this Mercury in Virgo energy to kind of hone in and zone in on these little places in us that are tending or calling for attention. Where are we not responsible? Where do we need saving? Where are we within our own system behaving like, like a mama's boy? Like, oh, well, like, I love my mom and like everything's fine. Like, where on inside of you, or maybe where are you like just not being compassionate at all? Where do you need to bring in more of that Venusian energy, that Mars and Cancer energy? So it like kind of like opens up multiple doors and multiple places for you to kind of feel into and explore into, and
Yeah, or
kind
maybe
of,
you've taken responsibility for other people. You're overly responsible. And maybe that actually could be part of the thing, because it could happen on either end of the spectrum. And I love that the moon is in Aquarius for this process leading up to the full moon eclipse, because the moon is getting bigger, more illumination of the things. We're not very emotional in this sign. So we've got a bit of detachment from our emotions, so we can kind of step back from them and take account without being so embroiled in the emotions, which may happen. Well, we're not to Friday yet, but so we have the whole Wednesday and Thursday, pretty much all of Thursday with the moon in Aquarius as well.
mhm,
That gives us kind of the distance from emotional processes to kind of have a different perspective,
exactly.
and also a less personal, more for everybody perspective.
Mm.
Um, and then, okay, I'll stop there because we're just on Wednesday and Thursday now. So,
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean that's actually a really good sort of like summary of what you would say, because on Thursday we have the trine between the moon being in Aquarius and Venus in Libra. So it's really interesting because, we started this week with like a harsh inner moon criticism, like kind of like all the, like everything that we've just spoken about. But now there's a sense of ease. Like the moon comes in and she kind of goes, okay, let's make something a bit lighter. Let's bring in more spaciousness, right? Because again, Aquarius is an air sign, Libra is an air sign. So it's perspective. It helps us to give perspective to things, right? It helps us to see the objective. It helps us to see the intelligence behind everything that we've just gone through. Um, it also creates that emotional distance, right? And even Mercury in Virgo, the sun in Virgo, it is a little bit like less emotional, right? Virgos aren't necessarily super emotive. They're a lot more logical. And one of the issues that a lot of Virgo people have is actually leaning into that Piscean quality and pulling from that energy to and express more emotion, because they're not necessarily super like attached or connected to their emotions. They're more attached to the body itself, where it's like, okay, I want to run, I want to eat, I want to analyze, I want to like do stuff. I want to focus on my health. But feeling the feeling is sometimes hard for them. Like they can't necessarily always name the emotions. Like they know something's wrong, but they just can't really name it. Whereas Pisces is the opposite of that. So but with that Aquarius moon connecting to Venus and Libra, there's like that coldness sometimes that Aquarius can have, that kind of brings in a little bit more love with Venus. There's definitely space to observe our feelings rather than drowning in them, or like overly complicating them. Um, so it's a good aspect, right? Because there's a sense of understanding that kind of takes place, that that love and as well as like responsibility, they're not the same thing, right? And we can care about someone without needing to manage their life or their actions or their behaviors. and we can maintain a healthy relationship at the same time without abandoning our needs. We can think of what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? That's like that. What's good for me is also good for us as a whole Aquarius. So there's a space within Thursday, like a pocket that kind of opens up a little bit that brings in, I would say, like maybe just a sense of neutrality almost in a way before the eclipse on Friday. So yeah.
Neutrality and perspective, more big picture type of energy.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Friday we get to feel it, or Thursday night, depending on when. So about 9 hours after the moon shifts into Pisces, we've got the full moon eclipse exact.
Yeah.
Um, and then more feeling opens up on this day.
Mm.
What do
Yeah.
you think
Yeah.
about that, Eleni?
Yeah, so Friday, that's like I would say again, it's like this culmination point, right, of just kind of everything from the previous eclipses, the previous cycles. So we spoke about this in length in our eclipse video specifically, so we'll link that. You can go back and watch that. But I'm just going to touch on a couple of things. So when, we've got this Pisces full moon, it's the culmination point. We've already kind of been feeling for like the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a lot of like things happening behind the scenes that we may not necessarily have been able to give like real clear language to, but this week we actually get to kind of start to bring language to it. We see the pattern, we see, we see the bigger picture. We can actually see the habit, the pattern, the behavior, and we're able to look at it with a lot more clarity and a lot more, just sort of, um, yeah, like calm, right? We're not as like we can step outside of the wound, the story, the lived experience. It's like we can become the observer of the situation instead of being the situation, right? So with this Pisces full moon eclipse again, like we may experience, because it's Pisces, right? Like so we may experience emotional sensitivity, intuition, dreams, compassion, like unconscious, like ooh, like beautiful things, right? Obviously. Um, and again, it's a completion. So the eclipse helps to kind of like intensify this process for us, right? So anything and everything that we've gone through this week, it can bring something into consciousness that's been developing beneath the surface that we haven't been able to see, haven't been able to feel, haven't been able to give language to, haven't been able to kind of like, set boundaries around. And so this helps us to release and just like dissolve these old structures, old boundaries, old stories, old roles that we have played within our family, old roles that we have taken on from the family systems that we're still perpetuating in our own relationships. Um, so we can surrender things, things can kind of like finally come to like this like culmination. We can give it up. We can go, okay, I've had enough of this. I don't want to carry this anymore. I don't want to have to be in it anymore. I can step outside of it. I can observe it. I can be neutral about it. I can take the insights, the wisdom, the guidance, the support, and I can move with it, right? So there's a sense of like I can release this emotional identity that has been attached to the old patterns and the old stories and the old roles that I've been playing. I can release that. I can give that up. I can be in both discerning and I can also be, or at least I can be both discerning and also know how to surrender when I need to surrender and not need somebody to save me. So this eclipse will help us on Friday to kind of like distinguish, right? What is ours? What's not ours, right? Like what needs to be released, um, and where can I let go a little bit more of controlling and like trying to just like narrate everything in my life to the point where I'm strangling myself and I'm not actually allowing myself to grow or expand or have fun because I'm just so stuck and like like I need to keep everything exactly as it is, and so. We can retain the wisdom that we've gained from the experience and we can then release everything else that goes with that. So that's kind of like that theme on Friday.
Totally. And Pisces being the last sign of the zodiac, like the completion of this, the wisdom of that cycle, the completion of that cycle, the emotional completion of that cycle as well. Not just the physical cutoff of it, but the full emotional completion of it. Also cool. Pisces rules the feet, toes, and pineal glands. So intuition. Pineal gland is your master gland. So like creating synchronicity in your own body, in your own field is totally available. Also, feet and toes, grounding that intuition into your daily life. Maybe not the sign to take the biggest action on it, but to actually like let it meet the earth, let it meet your embodied self.
Mm.
So I love the continued theme of completions that really started with the solar eclipse a couple of weeks ago. Um, it feels very, even though some crunchy things are coming through earlier in the week, or just even some crunchy feelings or energy, um, it's necessary to get to the next completion. And each completion is just like, sloughing off a little bit of energy, program stuff that just got in the way of us feeling fully ourselves, really knowing how we want to live life and what we want to contribute for the good of everyone.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. And Saturday, the Pisces moon trines Mars in Cancer. So, both aspects of us that may have been a little bit brutalized on Monday and Tuesday, that's where the moon comes in and then she kind of gives that compassion that Mars was longing for. She brings the insight and the wisdom that, like Libra was perhaps waiting for. So,
Delayed gratification, but it's the potential is there. It's just like working with kids, like expanding that delay in the gratification really helps them expand their character, like knowing, like, if an aspect of us is looking for to be more nurtured early in the week, it's coming.
hmm,
Just know, kind of move through, know that it will arrive, and the potential is really there, and choose to nurture yourself in the best ways that you can, whether that's a bubble bath or it's just simply saying, no, I'm not going to say that thing to myself.
yeah, exactly. So when that moon in Pisces is trining, Mars in Cancer on Saturday, there is that compassion and that emotional intelligence that can kind of come in, right? Because again, we're very much in the emotional body with, like Pisces and Cancer. And Mars is our desire to act, and to take action on. And it's, I want to act from this place. And if I have learned the lessons and I've spent time this week doing the work and sitting and looking at the details, not just, and the bigger picture, obviously, both. But if I've given myself time to just be in the experience and I reflect on what I need to reflect on, see what I need to see, learn what I've needed to learn, there's a capacity that creates itself on Saturday where we actually get to act from care, like genuine care for ourselves, care for each other. There's emotional intelligence and emotional integration that can take place on that day because the part of us that wants to move and act and do stuff, right? It's so like it helps us to move things through the body rather than becoming stuck inside of it. Um,
Mm.
and we actually start to become more embodied actually with Virgo energy, the sun being in Virgo, Mercury being in Virgo, like it becomes more embodied. We actually ground it in through the emotional body into the physical body. So it's no longer just in the head. Like, so we kind of like take the information, we spend some time with it, we analyze it, we kind of up here with it, and then we get to kind of bring it in. We take it in a layer, we bring it into the emotional body, and from the emotional body, we bring it into the physical body. And then we choose, okay, like, now how do this is kind of bleeding into Sunday, where Mars is sextiling Mercury. So my words and my decisions and my actions and all of the stuff that I've just kind of gone through, Mercury being I can analyze it, I can take it in, I can understand it, there's a harmony there. um, Mars can help us in this energy become really courageous around what Mercury has now sort of seen, and like we've analyzed it, right? We've seen it, we felt it, we know what we need to know by now. And so we don't have to be afraid to act from like our heart or our desires anymore. Mercury will give Mars that information and say, okay, instead of overthinking or instead of suppressing something, we actually have the capacity to communicate with a lot more clarity. We have the courage to do the thing that we know we need to do. We can also put into place structures and boundaries and standards, if you will, or even just decisions that are in alignment with who we are now versus who we potentially may have been a month ago. So these are things and ways that this kind of like Mars sextile energy will express and give us. Also, remember that the Mercury is conjunct the Sun, so Mars will also be conjunct the Sun, or not conjunct, sorry, sextile. Sextile. So there's cooperation, again. So we started like this week with like the Virgo energy, the Sun is in Virgo, it's conjunct the South Node, like all of these things. We've had the squares, like the mature aspects of us are asking, to like basically telling the immature versions of us, hey, grow up, own your stuff. Like stop being a victim, stop wallowing in your stuff, right? Like take accountability for yourself. Or if we've been too hard on ourselves, it's saying, hey, we need to be a little bit nicer to ourselves. Can we be a little bit kinder to ourselves? Can we be a little bit more compassionate? Can we actually kind of extend that also to the people around us? And then on Sunday, we kind of end the week after the eclipse, after all of this stuff that we've gone through, where it's a beautiful sextile, it's a harmonious aspect, where the eclipse provided us with the ability to move forward, to let stuff go. Since like the eclipse that we had early on the 12th, and now this eclipse that we have on the 28th, and then again in alignment with the eclipses that we had in March and in February. So it's like the completion point, right? Like it is the perfect culmination point. It's the conclusion of everything that we've gone through. We can see it now. It's no longer, the veil, like we've taken off the veil and we can see it for what it is. And with Mars now, the part of us that's now able to action things, that part of us is now actually on board with how we want to express that and how we want to use the new information to put it into play and to bring it into everyday life. And so if you're following the astrology, you'll know that I'm referring to Mars sextiling the Sun in Virgo with, Mercury in Virgo, and Virgo being everyday life. Okay, so just wanted to kind of like bring in that. So that is sort of how we can end the week. And this is kind of like we get to be the practical everyday life can also be more meaningful if we align our emotional body and act from a place of emotional maturity, intelligence, and ultimately just kind of give up the things that we know need to be given up, and we can actually build something new, create new structure, new systems. We can purify all the old stuff out of the system in order to ground something a lot more authentic, and so that we can align our actions with what we're truly deeply longing for, desiring, and then bringing it back to circle. It's like, and then is all of this stuff that I've just done in alignment with this new identity that I'm creating and building and becoming? So that's it.
And just noticing Saturday and Sunday we're in the waning moon, which is nice to like wane into emotional Pisces, receiving all the lessons and letting things start to decompress from Saturday and Sunday. So this is setting us to be able to move into the next week with much more headstrong ability to start moving forward, as long as we really sit with this week and like really crystallize each one of the gems it's trying to give us is what's coming through.
Yeah.
Okay. And Aries rules the head, teeth, tongue, and arteries. So that's, like speaking the new thing into being. That is, thinking it into being. Like that is actually like getting your blood pumping towards this new thing. So there's much more physical embodiment of the new thing coming in the week after. talk more about that the next week.
Yeah. And we'll also talk a little bit about the Saturn trine Jupiter, but not today. So anyway,
I think
we'll
we've
do
had
a
enough.
very brief little summary as we always do so that people can just kind of have a recap and just go, okay, there was a lot. What, like Elaine said so much, like she doesn't stop talking. Like, I don't know what to do with all this information. So we'll do a little summary for you. Okay. Monday, obviously, and Tuesday, that kind of those 2 days that we have this sort of like family constellation, if you will, right, between the mother, the father, the young, the son, the daughter, the different archetypes, right, like the disciplinarian, the nurturer, the caretaker, like the warrior, the fem, like all of these different things, right, like whatever archetypal expression you want to use, whatever label you want to attach to these planets that resonate with you. But the pattern essentially becomes around responsibility, security, independence, and then also what is your role in, all of that. Wednesday, Mercury moves into Virgo, and it really is just about like being more discerning, being more analytical, being more practical. Thursday, we gain perspective, right? We get to see the greater picture, the emotional space. We open up like a pocket where it's no longer just like I'm in the muck, I'm in the yuck, I'm in the grossness of it all, or I'm in the like absolute like, oh, I'm having this amazing experience and all these incredible insights and I'm absolutely loving this, but I don't really know where to put it. So this is where, like that Thursday energy can give us a little bit more space, more like it opens things up a bit more. And then Friday, we actually have that, eclipse where it's like it's the culmination of it all. We release the old, we welcome in the new, and Saturday, then that processes, like the process of the digesting of it all begins to happen. So, Sunday, we're able to move forward with Mars connects with Mercury and the Sun. It then allows all of our thoughts and our actions and our identities and our new way of being, they kind of start to cooperate and we're able to create something new moving forward. And we don't have to just keep repeating the same cycles. So, in a nutshell, that is the week.
Woo. Satnam.
Yeah.
Waheguru. I mean, I'm excited for this week. Even though, like, personally, I mean, it feels a little exhausting just to talk about it, but come the end of the week. So, allow yourself the space to rest, the space to metabolize it all. It feels like a lot is moving through us personally, globally, and through our group consciousness. So be gentle with yourselves. I know we always say it, but really be gentle with yourself. And also really real with calling yourself on the lack of responsibility, over responsibility, the little things that are out of alignment. So when we do that, like life just feels more exciting, juicier. Like I'm so excited to wake up for this day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
perfect. And also, I think maybe just to kind of add to that, if you're not feeling all of it immediately, it's okay because it's happening somewhere in your system, right? It's happening, all of these transits and aspects and like things, it's happening somewhere in you. It may just not, some of us may be feeling this at like 100% capacity, and then some of us may be feeling this at like a 10% capacity, and that's totally fine. There's no right way or wrong way. Like, so when we have these conversations and when we share these topics of conversation around the astrology, how it impacts you as a unique individual person, what can you expect? How do you work with it? What are you noticing within yourself? We're giving you a lot of different themes and a lot of different energies and a lot of different stuff for you to kind of pick your unique apple off the tree, right? So we're giving you the apple tree. It's your job to go and pick the apple that actually you want to eat, right? You don't have to eat 25,000 apples. Like it's a lot, right? You can just have one or two. You don't need to work with everything. So take what resonates with you. Choose one or two or three things that feel true in your system and then use that. So it's good to watch these conversations, but if you're not going to apply any of the stuff that we're actually talking about, then you're missing out on the whole purpose of these conversations. The whole purpose of these conversations is to give you something that you can actually use as you go through your week. and apply. So it's like we can probably call it applied astrology. So like use the astrology and apply it to your everyday life, your everyday choices, your everyday decisions, so that you can feel the effects of what is potentially there for you and how quickly you can expand outside of the old system.
That's what it's all about. Thank you so much for being with us again today. We will see you again next week. Have a
Thank you, everyone.
beautiful,
And
thank you.
again, as always, like and share and subscribe and comment. We really want to know what you think. So please drop some comments in the chat for us. Say hi. Where are you from? You know, like if you've made it all the way up until this video, the end of the video, you know, kudos to you. Well done for sticking it out.
Yay, thank
Um,
you.
but yeah, like we would love to hear from you. And also if you have any perhaps topics that you would like more information on, or maybe you would, you know, have a couple of questions that you would like to bring into,
Doesn't even have to be astrology.
yeah, anything, you know,
It can be
if there are
anything.
some questions that you would like some clarity around, or perhaps, you know, we need to clarify things or give more examples or whatever, like drop it in the comments. We'll be very happy to answer those questions. We can even do a recording and answer it live. So it's entirely up to you how you want to hang out with us and how you want to engage with us. All right, loves. Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon.